Okay, so we're going to talk about what a dilation is, but in order to do that, we're first going to talk about a coordinate plane and make sure we remember what a coordinate plane is. And you've probably seen this, the coordinate plane in other classes, but we're going to go through all the parts of it just to make sure if there's anything you forgot that you've got it down. So before we even do what's on your paper, I just want you to kind of watch this part, and I'll tell you what parts I want you to write down in just a second. So a coordinate plane is where we have two main axes. This is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. Maybe just draw this, like in the top corner, just where you have a tiny bit of space, just draw a small one of these just up, like up at the top corner of your paper somewhere. Just write this down. So you have an x-axis and a y-axis. So just label them just so you remember which one's which. X is always the horizontal left and right. The y is the vertical up and down line. Then we can, on a coordinate plane, we can graph dots, which are called ordered pairs. That's what we're going to do today, is we're going to be graphing ordered pairs. So when you graph an ordered pair, we have two numbers. You've got an x and you've got a y. So you'll notice the x is first, which means that goes along the x-axis, which is your left and right. The y is second, which goes along your y-axis, which is up and down. So this one goes either to the right or to the left. The y goes up or down. So I also want you to write that down. So I do want you to draw that or write that on your paper. So parentheses with an x and a y inside, the x goes up left and right, y goes up and down. So the first number in the parentheses always moves you either to the right or to the left. The second number always moves you up or down. That's probably the biggest mistake people make, is going up and down when you should be going right and left, or right and left when you should be going up and down. So just be really careful. First number is always right or left. Second number is up or down. All right, so we're going to use that. And first thing we're going to do is graph all of the points that are on your paper. So let's read the directions and it will kind of tell us. So it says plot and connect the following points in order to complete your picture. Connect the last point to the first point. So that's what we're going to do, is just step one. We're going to just plot each one of these numbers. So this is just the front side of your paper. So 0, 4 is your first number. So when we have 0, 4, 0 is left and right, 4 is up and down. The first number is left and right, second number is up and down. So we're going to go 0 left and right. You always start just right here, like at this middle point. Starting at the middle, we're going to move left and right 0. The 4 tells us to move up 4. So left and right 0, but then up 4. So just count 1, 2, 3, 4 dots, 4 squares up, and put a dot. From the center, which is called the origin, you're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 1 right here, 2, 3, and then 4, and you're going to put a dot. Okay, so you're just counting up 4 lines. So that is 0, 4. I'm going to put a little check mark by it so I know that I did that one. Maybe that would be a good idea on your paper. Just put a check mark next to it so you know you did it. Now we're going to do the second one, 1, 1, which means we go right 1, up 1. So from the center, always start from this middle point. You're going to go right 1, up 1, and put a dot. Then we're going to connect these in order as we do them. So it's kind of like connect the dots. We're going to connect those together. So there's the first 2. Okay, then I'm going to put a check mark, say, okay, I've got that one done. So I'm going to do 5, 1. 5 moves me to the right. The 1 moves me up. So 5 to the right, up 1. So from the center, always start at the center, go to the right 5 and up 1. And make your dots kind of big, like exaggerate them so you can see them really, really good. And so I can see them good if I look at your paper. All right, then we're going to connect those together and we're going to say, okay, that one's done. So I put a check mark. So I'm going to keep going and do the same thing over and over. So 2, I'm going to go right 2, down 1. From the center, go to the right 2, down 1, put a dot, and then connect those together. So that one's done. I'm going to go 3, -4. 3 goes to the right. 4 is going down. So I'm going to count right 3, down 4. From the center, right 3, down 4. And again, make your dots kind of big so you can see them really, really good. And then just connect that one to the one before. So that one's done. So 0, -2, 0 left and right. So you don't move left and right at all, but you're going to move down 2. So 0 left and right, down 2. Then connect that to your last dot. Okay, then we're going to do -3, -4. So left 3 because it's negative and down 4 because it's negative. So left, then down. Left 3, down 4. So go left 3 and then count down 4. And connect that to your last dot. And we're going to go -2, -1. So left 2 because it's negative, down 1. Left 2, down 1, and put a dot. Then we're going to connect that to our last dot. Okay, so we have 3 more. So -5, 1, left 5. Always move left or right first, up 1. So left 5, up 1. Always starting at the center. So left 5, up 1. Connect that. We have -1, 1, left 1, up 1. And then the last one, 0, 4. So left and right 0, up 4. So that lands right on that very first dot we did. And we're just going to connect that back together. Okay, so we have this shape. We've got a star. So check and make sure yours looks like mine. You all have that same shape? Okay, so now let's look at step 2. So that's just graphing on a coordinate plane, graphing ordered pairs. Those are all called ordered pairs. So step 2 says multiply every number by 2 to create a new set of points and repeat step 1 with a new point. So we're going to multiply everything by 2 on the same graph. We're going to multiply everything by 2 and draw it on the same graph so we can see them both next to each other. So I'm going to go to the very first one. It's 0, 4. So just next to it, we're going to multiply by 2 and write the new numbers. So if I do 0 times 2, I get 0. So I have 0 and 4 times 2 is 8. So that first point changes to 0, 8. Just multiplying every number by 2. Okay. So this one turns to 0, 8. Then I'm going to multiply the next one by 2. 1, 1. So 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 2 is 2. So my second point is 2, 2. Then we multiply by 2 on the next one. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 2 is 2. Then I have 2 times 2 is 4. And -1 times 2 is -2. Then I have 3 times 2 is 6. And -4 times 2 is -8. We're just timesing every number by 2. 0 times 2 is still just 0. -2 times 2 is -4. -3 times 2 is -6. And -4 times 2 is -8. And then -2 times 2 is -4. -1 times 2 is -2. Okay, I'm going to let you finish. Do those last 3. And then I want you to go graph this new set of numbers on the same graph. Graph this new set of numbers. Okay, so go ahead and finish those off and then start graphing them. And then we'll kind of check together in just a minute. So I'll give you a few minutes to finish doing that. Okay, looks like you're doing pretty good. So this, a couple things to just be careful with. Make sure you multiply everything by 2. The other thing, if you will look through your points, I want you to make sure you have parentheses at the front and end of every one of these. So look through your paper, because I noticed that most of you were missing at least one parenthesis. Not all of you, but most of you were. So look through and make sure you have parentheses around every single set of numbers all the way down. If you forget the parentheses, it's wrong. So you want to have those on there. So this is what you should have on your paper for the second picture, right? Everybody have that? What do you notice about these two shapes? What do we notice about the two shapes? Anything at all? They're the same, except for what's different? The size is all, right? So they're exactly the same shape, but the size is different. That is called a dilation. So that's what we're doing today. So a dilation is where you take any shape, you keep it the same shape, you just increase the size, or you could decrease the size also. So if you make a shape bigger or smaller, but don't change the size of it, it is called a dilation. That's what we're doing today. It's just changing the shape, or changing the size, not changing the shape. So everything you do today, if you get a different shape, then you did something wrong. A couple of you we looked at, we just had one number in the wrong spot. So if you can look at the two shapes, and if one of the pieces looks like it's weird, it doesn't match the other one, something's wrong with one of your pictures. So you can go back and try to figure that out. So let's go to the back side of your paper. And at the top, it explains exactly what we just talked about. A dilation, to dilate a figure means to enlarge or reduce the figure. The scale factor, which is what we're going to talk about, the scale factor determines how much larger or smaller the figure will become. A scale factor greater than 1 enlarges or makes it bigger. If it's less than 1, it makes it smaller. So the scale factor is like we multiplied by 2 on the last problem. That's called our scale factor. Whatever you're multiplying by, that's your scale factor. If it's bigger than 1, your picture should get bigger. If it's smaller than 1, your picture should get smaller. And it will just automatically do that. So even if you forget that, it will just happen. So we're going to graph the following images with the given dilation. So first thing we have to do is we need to figure out this part right here, which is the original picture ordered pairs. What are those dots? What numbers go there? So we're going to do that first. So first looking at A. So here's A, and you notice A is down here and it's labeled. So make sure you're looking at the right letter. Don't mix them up. Make sure you're looking at A. The first number moves me left and right. So from the center to get to A, I'm just counting how many squares do I move left or right? How many squares do I move up or down? So to get to A, I don't move left and right at all. So my first number is going to be 0. Then I just move down 1. So my second number is going to be -1. So A is at 0, -1. Okay, then I'm going to go to B or F. It's not B, it's F. So we're going to go to F next. So starting at this middle point always, counting from the middle, how far do you move left or right? Then how far do you move up or down? So I'm going to move left 1. So that's -1. But I don't move up or down at all. So my second number is 0. Then I'm going to go to V and do the same thing. So V from the center, from the middle, I move to the right 1 and up 1. Right 1 just gives me a 1 first. Up 1 gives me a 1 second. So that's the very first thing you have to do every time is figure out what are the original ordered pairs. Then we can multiply by the scale factor. So this, and I would write this in your notes. So you don't, if you forget, multiply all numbers by 5. Put a little arrow so you know where that 5 came from. Multiply all numbers by 5. I want you to write that in your notes because when you forget this in a week or two, you can come back and look at this and see those notes and that will help you. So we're going to multiply everything by 5. So 0 times 5 is 0. -1 times 5 is -5. -1 times 5 is -5. And then we get 0. And 1 times 5 is 5. So we have 5 in both of those. So you can use your calculator to do that. If you can't do it in your head, that's great. Use your calculator. So multiply every single number by 5. So now let's graph those new numbers. So starting with A, you notice it has this little, looks like an exclamation mark. The way we say that is prime is the way that's the words we use to say that. It would be A prime. So A is the original, A prime is the new one. So A prime is what we're graphing. So 0, -5, left and right 0, down 5. When you do this, you're all listening, right? Label your points. So this is going to be labeled A prime. Please label your points. I will make you go back and label them if you forget. Please make sure you label them. So there's A prime. Then we have F prime. So -5, 0. So left 5 and 0. So there's our F prime. Label your points and make sure we can read them. So if you need to do them a little bigger, then do that. Then 5, 5, right 5, up 5. And this one would be V prime. Label them and label them correctly. Make sure you have the right letters. Then we're just going to connect all those together. And that is going to be my new shape. You'll notice the shapes are exactly the same. One is bigger than the other, but the shape didn't change. It didn't like twist. It didn't like squish or go a different direction. It didn't have any, like, it's just the same thing. It's just bigger. If you don't get the exact same thing, you can tell something's wrong without me even looking at your paper. You know something's wrong. All right, so there's number one. Let's do number two. So number two, first thing, let's just figure out our ordered pairs. So S and S, that's what we're looking at first. From the center, so we're starting down here at that 0, down to that bottom corner. We're going to move right and up. So right, we're going to count how many? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this one is 8, 14. So that's S. Now we're going to do T. So T, T. So I'm going to move right first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. My first number is going to be a 6. Then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're just counting. Sometimes you can read the numbers on the graph and sometimes they're so blurry that you read them incorrectly. So it's best to just count on your graph and not rely on the numbers, because if you rely on the numbers and you can't read them because they're so tiny, it will mess you up. Okay, so U is next. So we go to the right, 12. And then up from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're just counting to the right and up. And then our V. Oh, did I do the, oh, I didn't, I'm good. Okay, so V and V, right? So V goes over to 14. If we count to the right, 14. And then we're going to go up 14. All right, do you have questions on finding that? Are you getting this okay, how to find those numbers? What are we going to multiply on this one? What number do we multiply by? What's our scale factor here? Andrew, what's the scale factor on this one? A half. So we're going to multiply by a half, right? So again, if you want to write that in there, so multiply all numbers by 1/2. Okay, so the way you're going to put this in your calculator is just enter. So if we're doing 8, so you're going to write 8 times, and then just do parenthesis 1 divided by 2. That is 1/2. If you just do it as a division, that's great. I would write this on your paper so you remember how to enter it in your calculator. Maybe even write on their calculator. So you remember how to enter it in your calculator. So you're going to do 8 times, then parenthesis 1 divided by 2. That's how you're going to multiply by 1/2. We can get decimals on some of these, and we will on some problems, not all, but you could get decimals potentially. So if I do 8 times 1/2, everybody type it in your calculator to make sure you know how to do it. I should get 4 if you're typing it incorrectly. 8 times 1/2 is 4. It should make it smaller because you're timesing it by a half. Then if I do 14 times 1/2, I get 7. So I want you to do the rest of those, and we're going to check, and I'm going to have you guys help me get answers. So I'll give you just a minute to fill in the rest of those numbers. Okay, we're going to see what you've got. Allison, do you have the T, the first number in T? What'd you get? A 3 and a 5. Okay. 3 and 5. Valerie, what about you? Do you have those two numbers? 6 and 5. Okay. Gino, do you have the V? What is the 7 and 7? Perfect. All right, so let's graph these. So 4, 7, right and up. Right 4, up 7. And just count. Right 4, up 7. And that is S prime. Label your points. Make sure you put S prime. T is 3, 5. Label, and make sure you're labeling them with the right letters as you do this. U is 6, 5. And then V is 7, 7. V prime. Make sure you put a prime on all of them because that's the new one. And then if we connect these all together, you can see it is the exact same shape. It is just smaller. If one of your lines is slanted different than what the original picture is, you did something wrong. Either your numbers are wrong or you graphed it in the wrong place. So if there's anything that's different, go back and try to figure out why it's different. All right, so let's try 3. Is everybody good with that one? Okay, we're going to go through 3 a little bit quicker. So our D, so D here, we have -2 first, left to 2, and up 3. So -2, 3. There's D. All right, then we're going to do E. Make sure you're looking at E for E, F for F, D for D, that you don't mix the numbers up so they're in the right order. So E, we're going to go left 1, 2, 3, so -3, and down 3, so -3 down. So -3, -3. Then we're doing F. Make sure you're looking at F when you're doing F. So going over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the first number, and down 2, so down -2. So Anna, what number are we going to multiply by on this one? 2. So we're going to multiply by 2. So multiply everything by 2. Okay, so if we multiply by 2, -2 times 2 is -4. 3 times 2 is 6. And then 3's again, -3 times 3 is -6, and another -6. 4 times 2 is 8, and -2 times 2 is -4. So I just multiplied every number by 2. Then we graph it. So the D prime, -4, left 4, up 6. And that's D prime. Label it. Make sure you put the prime, the exclamation, which is prime. Then -6, -6. The left and down, and that is our E prime. Again, label your points. Then we have 8 and -4. So right 8, down 4. And that is our F prime. Label your points. Then just draw your line to those. Again, and just do the best you can drawing your line straight. I know it's kind of hard sometimes. You'll notice the shapes are exactly the same shape. They're different sizes, but the exact same shape. All right, questions on that one? Okay, I want to make sure we do this last one because it does have, we're going to have some decimals in it. So we want to make sure you know how to do those. Okay, we ready for that last one? So the first part, we're not going to have any decimals. We're just putting in our numbers. So S with S, we're going left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5 and then down 1. So -5, -1. Then T, make sure you're looking at T. So we're doing the T up top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. And up 1, 2, 3, 4. So +4. So left is negative, up is positive. And then U is -1. And we went up 2. Left 1, up 2. All right, we good with those numbers? Any questions on those? Okay, we're going to multiply everything by 1/4. So in our calculator, you type in -5 times 1 divided by 4 in parentheses. So -5 times 1 divided by 4. Make sure the 1 divided by 4 is in parentheses. So this one, you are going to get some decimals. So when you do -5 times 1 divided by 4, you get -1.25. So you have a decimal, and that's okay. Leave it as a decimal. Then the second one, when we multiply -1 times 1/4, you get -0.25. Okay, so the T, -4 times 1/4 just gives me a -1. And 4 times 1/4 just gives me a +1. So those ones are not decimals. All right, we're doing a -1 again. So -1 times 1/4 is -0.25. And 2 times 1/4 just gives me a 0.5. So as you're graphing these, you just have to think about where those decimals would fall. So this negative 1.25, you're going to go -1 and just a little bit past that. It's not going to be perfect, but you're just going just past -1. So I'm going to go -1 and just a little bit past it. So about like right here is what I'm looking at. And then I need to go up down 0.25. So just down a tiny bit. So if I go left negative 1.25 and then down 0.25, it's going to be just about right there, kind of in that corner, not on a straight line, not on one of the lines, but just in that little corner. So there's our S prime. Then I have -1, +1, so left one, up one. There's our T prime. And then -0.25, so left just a tiny bit and down 0.5, which is half. 0.5 is half. So left just a little bit and down halfway. Something's wrong. Oh no, we're okay. No, we're not. Oh, up halfway, sorry. Left just a little bit and then up a half. So if I went down, I could tell something was wrong because it wasn't making the same shape. So it's left and up because 0.5 is positive. Now we have the same shape. So if you don't have the same shape, something is wrong. You can check and see what's wrong. So make sure your shapes match. Just one's bigger, one's smaller. All right, any questions?